From the imagination of Cloudhead Games comes a journey through time and space.
It's the second episode of a very long journey for us as a team.
The gallery tells the story episodically of you, the player, chasing after your crazy adventurous sister through space and time and all these amazing science fiction fantasy experiences.
Well, episode 1 was all about the call to adventure. You start on this beach, you find out that she's entered the sewers, you find that she has found this mysterious, creepy old man who wants to help her get to where she needs to go. You eventually find your way down to this otherworldly machine.
You find this star seed that takes you to a completely different world.
Episode 1 was very terrestrial, it all happens on Earth. Episode 2 is about making that story bigger. You travel through the starseed and you end up in this brand new world with brand new characters.
It's your deeper dive down the rabbit hole.
The Ember Stone is this raw, mystical power source on the planet Ember, which is mysterious and strange and has all of these swirling rumors and myths about it.
This is a world that's sort of in the autumn of its life. It's past its prime. There's some stuff that happened years ago that you're sort of learning and you're trying to figure out what's happened.
You could definitely jump into episode 2 without having played episode 1.
You'll just have more emotional connection with Elsie and the intrinsic need to find her.
I need what you have, what you are.
It's inspired by 80s nostalgia, Goonies.
Old Henson Studio stuff like Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, lesser known movies like Krull, their prop building and their set dressing.
We ended up looking towards board games and sports and other physical things. It's kind of like a weird hybrid of movie and video game. Episode 1 in many ways was a tutorial on how to just be and exist in VR. Episode 2 kind of takes all of that for granted and says, now we're going to push you way harder. It's a more complex experience. It's 3 times longer. The puzzles are more complicated. The story is much deeper.
At the end of episode 1, you received a gauntlet. And we didn't give you a lot of time to figure out what that gauntlet did or what the abilities were. In episode 2, you get to fully explore the abilities that this gauntlet has.
You have this power that lets you connect to these special kinds of materials that let you move them around and rotate them and place them as you please.
We have tech notes you can pick up and read like books you would in real life. They're incredibly easy to read, they're interactive.
We had tapes in episode 1. Elsie talked you through the cassette tapes. This time around, by having a hologram actually pop up and share the space with you.
There's a really interesting feeling of being present with those holograms because you can blink around and walk around everywhere and you have the freedom to move within them.
We've discovered a lot of really important lessons on just how to interact in VR in new ways.
The thing we're shooting for initially with episode 2 is just sort of a sense of wonderment. We go through many different scales in the game. We go through a giant open area with statues that are like 40 meters tall, all the way down to you're in a small lab.
We wanted to kind of capitalize on using telekinesis, having an effect on objects. So it became a core mechanic in episode 2.
The telekinesis power went through some changes over time as we were developing it because we were trying to find what players and developers wanted out of it. So they like to pick up things, bring them close and look at them, and then they like to just throw them away. But mostly we just wanted to give people the freedom to do that with larger, crazier, more impressively epic pieces of real estate.
Cloudhead Games was an early innovator in some of these early locomotion methods. The good thing about that was we learned what people liked and didn't like. With episode 2, we've incorporated a bunch of experimental modes, let users really play around with what they are actually comfortable with. And then hopefully we can come to better answers about what future locomotion methods we can create. Part of the Ember Stone really relies on the physicality of room scale and using your physical body, using your hands to interact with objects. The VIVE is bar none the highest quality VR hardware you can buy on market right now. It's been very easy to work with, helping us deliver an experience that sets a bar much higher. All of these things come together to make you feel like you're present in that experience.
I love that virtual reality gives the player a ton of freedom because that freedom makes them feel like that they were building that story on their own.
We're forcing players to get outside their comfort zone.
We're pushing the boundaries of what VR can do, as well as driving this story much deeper down that rabbit hole.
I want the player to feel like they visited a real place and experienced something that was real.
The whole thing is really intended to be a gallery of intense, amazing 80s-centric experiences for people to enjoy.